Hey everyone, in this video we're going to take a design from Adobe Xd, bring it into Elementor and Wordpress, and launch a new website. Are you ready? I'm totally ready. Let's go. And we are back for the final video for the beta launch of the Akamai website. I'm really excited about this. I love the design part and I love the building part. So this is the combination of the two. I'm going to play around with the Elementor Pro page builder and take a design that I'm pretty happy with so far and bring that into the website. Just see what that whole process is like. In the last video, we took the design and the layout and built the structure and wireframes, sort of an interactive prototype on the actual website. And this time we're going to take it the next step up and actually put the design in there, set up a design system, and launch the sucker. Hey guys, this is Mark, the next day editing the video. The guy you're watching right now doesn't realize it yet, but he's going to split this video into two videos. The reason being, there is a lot of things you have to do just prior to launching a website that warrants its own video, this entire checklist of pre-launch items. So I'm going to do that in the next video. This video is about getting your design from Xd over into Elementor with your design system and everything set up so it looks really good. That's always important too, but you can't take the site that looks good and launch it necessarily. There's a lot of things you have to do before you launch it. So that's next week. Right now, let's get back to the video. If you missed that last video, be sure and click right there. Now, some of you are probably thinking,
tell us about yourself. Who are you?
Well, my name is Mark and I've been a web designer for over 20 years and I teach web design at the University of Hawaii, West Oahu. Akamai Websites is where I help new and aspiring web designers level up their professional game with tips, techniques, and tutorials just like this one. And this is going to be a good one because we're going to take the design from Adobe Xd and bring it in to Elementor Pro page builder on WordPress. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you're ready. So as usual, I'm going to break this up into a few specific steps. Step number one, we're going to take the design and sort of figure out what our design system is going to be. We'll pick out the colors and the fonts and we'll bring those into the Elementor page builder as a design system so we have global elements and we don't have to keep recreating things over and over. The next thing we'll do is we'll style the global elements, the header and the footer that are across most of the pages. We're also going to export and bring in all the specific visuals and elements and photographs that we need into the WordPress page builder. And finally, we're going to finish up the design, bring everything over, style all the text, get everything ready, and then we're going to launch it. Of course, there's a few plugins and other things that I want to install and set up prior to the launch, and I'll talk about those as we get into them. But for now, let's go to Adobe Xd and check out what we have. So as you can see, we have a home page, an about page, and a resources page that we're going to be building. There's a lot of visual elements here, but I want to look at those things that are borrowed across the entire site. We have certain text treatments, we have certain colors, and a few other things that I want to bring over into Elementor. The first thing I like to do is bring over the colors that I use on my design into Elementor so that I have all of those set up. In Adobe Xd, it's pretty easy to set up assets with those colors, so that's what I'm going to do first. Alright, as you can see, I brought over a bunch of colors from the design into the assets panel here, and that gives me a really good starting point to know exactly which hex codes I want to add to Elementor. Next, I'm going to look through the character styles and add those in as well. Okay, there we go. So I don't need to bring every single style that I see here over into Elementor, but I do want to look at the style sizes, especially the ones for headers and the ones for body text, buttons, links, things like that, and make sure that they're all represented in the WordPress page builder. All right, so I've specified a few different options here. We have H1 as a 42. I think I'm going to use 38 as my H2. H3 will be a 32, H4 will be a 24, H5 is an 18, the body text is 16 along with the link. We have forms here which are 14 and a caption which is 14, and then we have a footer which is 12. Now, because we have the colors already set up here, I don't need to worry too much about what color each of these typefaces are. But I do need to worry about what thickness they are. So I'm going to just make sure that I have those all figured out. All right, so there we go. So for the different thicknesses, we really have only 2 or 3 that we need to worry about. We have medium, which is most of the body text, as well as the H5. We have demi-bold, which is almost all of the header text. And we also have just a standard bold down here for the menu items. This is great because it limits the amount of bandwidth that's necessary to download the fonts that we're going to be using. All right, so let's take this information and go into Elementor and build out our design system. From here, we'll click on the hamburger menu and we'll go to Site Settings. And here we have our global colors and our global fonts that we can set up. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up while I do this. So I've set up my initial global colors here. There are 4 colors that you have to have in every website: the primary, the secondary, the text, and the accent. You'll notice here when I changed the accent color, it changed the button background. So that's used for a lot of the buttons here. The text is black, which is fine for what I'm using it for. Secondary, I set this blue color. This is just another one of the this is the deep blue that I have down below. And the primary color we set as black, just because it's a good general color for me to use for that. But as we go in, we're going to set the global colors for some of these elements to match the design that we have. Next, we're going to go back to the site settings and go to global fonts. And this is where we're going to set up our main fonts. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, I used Avenir Next in most of my design work, but in actuality, Avenir Next is not a Google font. So what I'm going to do is find a Google font that is close to that, which I did already, which is Nunito. So I'm going to use Nunito for the website, and I'm going to set those up as my global fonts now. All right, so I've set up some global fonts here, but what we really want to do is go in and set up some of these H1s and body text and other things. So we go out of site settings and we go down to typography, and this is where we're really going to set these things up. So one thing you'll notice here, when I'm looking at the colors for link, the colors that I actually set up before are not here yet, and that's because I haven't updated my global settings yet. So I'm going to click the update button just to make sure that those are all in there. I'm going to exit this site settings area, and then I'm going to go back into it. Now when it loads up, my colors should all be there. So now we've set up our H1 through H5. I also want to set up these menu items and the footer text. So let's go back into the fonts and set those up. So as I was creating each one, I also saved them with their own H1 through H5 specification here. And I'm going to go ahead and make these captions and the form text and some other items too. All right, so there we are. We have all the fonts set up. Everything's looking pretty good. Now all we have to do is just go into the website and make sure that they're all set up in the right locations. But first, let's click Update. Go back. And the next thing I want to do is style the buttons and make sure that they match this button style that I have in the Adobe Xd document. Next, we're going to go into form fields and make sure that those match as well. Alright, so there we are. You'll notice a few things are a little off here, like this button doesn't act the right way, but that's because it was individually styled. So we can go into Elementor and get those taken care of. But next we're going to click Update, make sure everything is saved up. We're not going to worry about these other items quite yet. We'll get into those later. And we'll exit out of that. And then let's go back to our original design here, take a look. So you'll notice that there's several visual elements and photographs that are in this design that I want to bring over. So what I want to do is get those designs, pictures, and export them from Adobe Xd, put them into their own folder, make sure they're styled correctly, and then bring them in. Now, a few of these I grabbed from Unsplash. So these glasses and this person here, and this coffee cup down here with the word conversations on it, those are all stock free images that I grabbed. So I know where to find those. All of these logos that I created for different companies, I'm going to go ahead and export all of those as well. And then I have two photos here that I want to export too. So it seemed like a lot of work, but that really makes everything else from this point forward much easier. We've got all the images, we've got all the typography, the colors, everything we need to set this website up the right way. So let's get back in here, go to Elementor, bring everything in and start styling some stuff around. So here we are. Actually, the first thing I want to do is exit to the dashboard. And I'm going to go to the media library and bring in all of those media items. And there we are. We have all of those images now brought in. Piece of cake. So here we are on the home page. One thing you'll notice here, we have a footer and we have the entire page up here. I'm going to go ahead and adjust the footer first because that's a global element that was going to be across all the pages. So I paused for a little bit there, but I wanted to recap really quickly some of the things I just did. What I've done is I've created one large container across the entire header hero area. I have a inner container right above it. This inner container has the 3 columns, each one for a different item, and the background of that is styled with a gradient from a slightly transparent to a fully transparent at about 50% of the distance down. So that just gives this sort of a nice gradient across the top. This border up here is only here when you're in the editor. If I full screen that, it goes away because there's no padding up there. And then I created another inner section below that right here. And this inner section has just one column in it. And I did this so I could box the information a little bit and added a padding above and below of 15% of the viewer height. So that when I go out to full screen like this, or I go around, it'll adjust to 15%. And it will always look good, even if it goes in a bit narrower, so that this face doesn't go anywhere. It stays right where it's supposed to go. So that looks pretty good. I'm really happy with how that turned out. I'm going to go ahead and start styling the rest of the homepage. Alright, and finally I'm going to work on the bottom section of the home page. For the rest of this, unless something really interesting happens, I'm just going to speed through the rest of this build. But I think you get the idea of what I'm doing. If you have any specific questions, please let me know. But I'm going to go through this and I'll see you on the other side. So there we have it. This is the design integrated into the website. I think it looks pretty good. At least it looks pretty much like I designed it, so I'm pretty happy about that. Now there's still some work left to do on this website. And I'm going to save that for part 2 of this sort of launch sequence video. I have several things in a pre-launch checklist or go-live checklist that I usually go through to make sure that my site is ready to see the light of day. Things like making sure the responsive design is there, checking all the functionality, getting all the forms and stuff ready, making sure that it's ADA compliant. There's a bunch of things that we need to do before we can actually launch this website. It looks ready, but it's not quite ready yet. So in the next video next week, we're going to get in here and just polish things off and go through that checklist that I have. And I'm going to share that with you so that you can use it too when you want to launch a website and make sure that you're crossing all your T's and dotting all your I's. So if you want to be sure and get all of that goodness, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and smash that like button. And this leads me to the question of the week. I'm curious, what is your favorite page builder? What do you like to build on? And have you used Elementor before? Maybe you like Brizy, maybe you like Beaver Builder, maybe you like Divi, maybe you like Oxygen. There's a lot of really good page builders out there. I'd like to know what you use. Let me know in the comments below. So you can tell I've been working on this a while because since I started recording, it got dark outside. So that means it is time for me to go to bed. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I can't wait till next week when we get this thing launched and ready to go. Until next time, stay Akamai.